hand up into the TV.
It's okay.
Like I did last year on our panel.
Yeah, my head. Hey, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. How are you all?
Wow.
So a couple things that I want to cover before we get into the nitty-gritty of it all is to thank our sponsor, Blueberry. If you like podcasts and digital media, you will like Blueberry. That's what they do. Also, the charity for DragonCon this year is Open Hand Atlanta, and DragonCon is matching up to $100,000 of y'all's donations, which is pretty rad. So there's a bucket in Galleria 6 if you won't have cash, or you can go online to DragonCon.com, and there's a link there. Is that true? Great.
Except for I think it's
DragonCon.org. Thank you. That's it. That was why I checked. Also, if you like this panel, make sure that you rate and comment in the app. If you hate this panel, give us 5 stars out of spite. Tell us that you hope it's better. You're giving next year's panel 5 stars and telling us how to do it better. It really does help to get your feedback. And that all being said, welcome to audio and video editing. I'm really excited. We are going to cover some basics of audio editing and video editing, kind of get y'all started. If you want to start a podcast, if you want to start a video series, we're going to give you some tools to get going. I know that hurdle can feel very overwhelming before you start, and it can keep some of us from starting. So hopefully today we break down some of those walls and we show you that we're really just a bunch of ding-dongs playing around on the computer, and you can be that too. I am Stephanie Crugnola. You can find me online at Crugnola. I've been doing podcasting since I've been doing podcasting for about a decade, but I've been audio editing since I was like 12, and it is one of my favorite things to do. I've got a couple podcasts, one about Shakespeare called Protest Too Much. I've got a D&D 5e podcast called Adventure Incorporated, and it's great and fun, and I'm going to toss it over to Hugh.
Hi, my name's Hugh Morrison. I'm, I guess, what you'd call a hobbyist audio engineer. I started playing around with audio in 1996 with my first Cool Edit license.
I thought I remember Cool Edit.
I found this in a box and I figured I had to bring this with me. And also, let's see, I use Reaper, and I've been doing podcasting for 12, 15 years, something like that. So, next.
I'm Kyle Sullivan. I work in video and film production as a director, an assistant director, and a camera op. I have a YouTube channel, Expertise, a podcast, Wiki Surfer. I started a YouTube channel to practice editing. So I've been editing for 10 years, and it's a great place to play if you want to practice being an editor.
My name is Jeff Ello. I'm a filmmaker from Indiana, and I do what is politely referred to as fixing. So I fix it all in post, and that's why you don't know me, but you have probably seen my work. And I'll be talking about streaming today, and in that sense I have built a series of 18 self-service green screen rooms across the state of Indiana where hundreds of thousands of videos are shot over the course of years for online content.
Hi, I'm Kevin Cafferty. I make documentary films, and I have a podcast about movies that involve skateboarding called Gleaming the Tube. In non-DragonCon space, I am a head of creative and video production in the corporate world, and as part of that role on the client side, I'm going to look at what Kyle's doing and offer like unhelpful suggestions.
All right, let's give a round of applause for our panelists before they even tell you anything. Okay, so I'm going to get started on the podcast side of things. And basically what I'm going to do is start with the audio I have, and I'm going to show you how I go from just the recording to a finished, finalized product in under 10 minutes. And this does take longer when you're actually doing it for a full podcast. I do want to add that disclaimer, but I'm going to show you all the tips in 10 minutes. I have a QR code up here with a PowerPoint presentation of everything that I'm going to say over the next 10 minutes. because I don't expect you to retain all of it. I know DragonCon can be overwhelming, so if you want a link so that you can reference it after the fact, I've got that up here. So I just want to preface that you don't have to memorize everything I say for the next 10 minutes. The best thing about podcasting is that you have all the tools. If you've got a phone, you've got all the tools you need to get started. We'll touch on equipment a little bit, but really, if you have a passion for your subject matter, that's what you need. If you've got an iPhone and you record into your voice memo, that's going to be great. Honestly, it's alarmingly good quality for your iPhone voice memo to get it to where it needs to be. So I'm going to start. I use Adobe Audition just because it was my Christmas present when I turned 15, so that's what I've been using for 20 years. He was going to touch on some different software, and just know that all of these tools are available in any editing software. You don't need Adobe, you don't need anything specific, you just need the basic tools to go, and then you'll be good. So when we start, obviously it's a pretty easy, open the files, file open, or you can drag and drop them. And then the first thing that you want to do when you have a track like this is eliminate your background noise. Now, this is a pretty bad example because I don't have a long swath of silence. But when you start recording, what you want to do is give a few seconds of room noise so that you can take that out and reduce some of the background when you go. So if you're listening to... there's not a lot of background noise in this. It's a bad example, but I'm going to show you how to do it anyway. So when you're listening to your track, sometimes you'll have a fan on in the background, or you'll have something going on. There might be like a rumbling from your refrigerator. Whatever that is, you can pretty easily get rid of that, and it's going to boost your audio quality so much just right off the bat. So what you're going to do is you're going to select just that silence. You're going to, I don't know how to...
Flat out honesty.
I don't know how to do this without a mouse. I should have, yeah, can I borrow that?
Actually, we've got a mouse to the rest of
Yeah, sorry y'all.
First step, mouse.
First step, mouse. It is helpful to have a mouse.
Why I looked it up, 'cause
Okay,
I don't like
so
this.
you can do all of this by right-clicking, and you all can see on the, yeah, perfect. You are going to capture noise print. You can also do it through effects, noise reduction and restoration, capture noise print, so you can get things a couple different ways. You're going to capture that. It's going to take that bit of noise, and then you're going to run the effect of noise reduction. Pretty straightforward and simple. And what you want to make sure you do is you play through it. So you've got a couple different levels here. I can take out more of the room noise, so you're going to get all of that sound gone, but the pitfall of that is that your voices might start to sound tinny, because if you take away, especially male voices, there is a lot of breath and deepness in that voice. So when you take out the room noise, which is a fan, it has a similar wavelength, so you're going to lose some of the audio quality. So you really want to just play through it, find your balance, see what sounds right to you, and you're going to apply that to the whole track. So that's the first thing you want to do. Then you want to listen through for your content. So if I am listening...
Really want to be at the Thanksgiving with Titus Andronicus.
Hate that. I don't want to be at a Thanksgiving with Titus Andronicus. So that's what this whole episode is about. So if I want to cut that, let's say I made a mistake. I said I don't want to be at Thanksgiving with Hamlet instead of Titus, which I'm supposed to be talking about. You can just delete things. You just highlight it and delete it. It's that easy. If you have a little bit here that you've got some like pops or clicks or table noise, you can also just silence it, so you're not losing the space. You're just losing the noise that happens. And that's, again, a right click, just hit silence. Those tools are super easy. And again, we've eliminated our background noise. We have deleted some of the things that we don't want in there. Now you've got your content edit and a lot of your quality edit started. If you are doing a podcast that has intro music and outro music, you open up a multi-track, you drag all of your files in, you line them up. This is also if you're doing an interview style show, you can line your tracks up that way. And then you can layer them and stagger them so that you fade in and out when you want to. So if we've got our intro,
We go head to head each week, and you get to decide who wins. My guest today is author Ian Depp.
okay? So maybe I want it a little bit sooner to come in, maybe I want it a little bit later. Very easy just to drag things around. At the end of my episode, we don't need to hear that whole song again. So I'm gonna line it up here, and you can just drag your fade. And then what it'll sound like,
Facebook page there. I'm on Instagram. I'm in all the places, and also iandesher.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much again for being here. And
okay, so it ramps up. I want it a little bit later. And you can just, again, drag and drop that to fade it how you want it. Another thing you can do is if I want a little bit more, I want a little more control over what gets faded in. You can highlight the section you want. Favorites, you're gonna do fade in. A lot of the tools are very self-explanatory. It's just knowing that they're there, that you can just fade it in like that, and now we've got a different kind of a fade. Once you've got your track lined up, so you've got everything where you want it, you are going to multi-track, mix down to new file, entire session, and that just locks it all together. Now here is, to me, the most important part to take this from something good to something that's not going to blow people's ears off when they're listening in the car. Because I don't know if y'all have listened to a podcast or a show or whatever, TV, and you're trying to hear the dialogue in the show, and you're straining your ears, you're turning it way up, and the commercials come on, and you're like, my Lord. Podcasts have that too. You have sections. You can see here that this section is much quieter than this section. So what I don't want is distracted driving, right? I don't want people in their cars turning up the volume, turning down the volume. You want to make sure that everything is about the same level. So when you're if you're layering different tracks, you can manipulate the volume in here by a couple different ways. You can say, I want this a little quieter. We can just take this soundbar, lower it. Another way to do that over here, you've got this little volume knob that you can move up and down, and it's going to make it, if you can see, yeah, over here, louder or quieter. So you can do that volume here. You can do it here. You can also highlight this section, go into effects, amplitude and compression, amplify. You can raise and lower the volume in here. There are a couple different ways. But you want to make sure that your music isn't overwhelming your voice. You want to make sure that everything is balanced and the same general level. So once you have it all mixed down, the last thing you want to do, highlight the whole thing. We're going to make sure it all comes out at relatively the same volume. Amplitude and compression, hard limiter. This is not an exact science. You want to see generally where your concentration of volume reaches its peak. So for me, it's going to be roughly here. So there's not a lot of spikes above it. The highest concentration of sound comes at about, we'll say, we're going to do apply. And that's going to cut all of those peaks right out. Let me do that. I'll do it a little bit more. Oh no. Sorry, y'all. So you can see it all cut down. It looks a little bit more even. And then you want to make sure everyone can hear it. So you are going to normalize. Usually I do about -4. Oh, you can just hit enter. There you go. So, oh, you want to, okay, so this is what happens when we do traveling software. So you want to boost the audio so that it's at a level that is pretty standard for volume in your car or anywhere. So that done, you save it, you export it, you put it on your podcaster, and you're done. Everything's about the same volume. You're not going to have to turn it up and down. You've edited out all of the little bits that you don't want. You've normalized the sound, and you are good to go. So again, all of that is going to be, if you want that QR code, you can come up after the panel, and it is all a lot clearer on the PowerPoint. I do video steps through it. But it's not a lot of steps to get it sounding good.
I agree.
Again, great. All done.
And I would say if you don't have access to Audition, and you're doing it on kind of a more rudimentary audio editor, there's a program called Levelator that's not as good
yes.
as Audition, but it will do kind of a normalization and a compression on the sound. And if you're not kind of doing a heavily produced with a lot of sound effects and stuff podcast and a lot of music, if it's just you and someone else talking about stuff, it will usually do the trick.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, really great program. Yep. All right. And then just make sure.
There's a lot of different things you can do with audio to polish it up. If you only do this, you're miles ahead of the crowd.
That's really,
Right?
yeah.
Don't blow people's speakers out. It's very courteous.
They will, thank you. And yeah, that's the thing is that, like, there's so much more you can do, but if you just do this, you're so far ahead in the game that people are going to be so impressed right off the bat.
Yes. Okay, this is called Reaper, and a lot of people think it is free, but it is not. Let me see, purchase information here. This is the nag screen that you'll get when you download Reaper, and it'll tell you it's not free, but there's a little button that'll pop up here that says still evaluating, and you can keep using it for free. You're expected to pay for it, but you don't have to. And it's supposed to be for 60 days, but it's not going to do anything bad to your files or whatever. You still get the full functioning thing. It's just bad karma. So yeah, basically, it's same idea as what you do, but the way I approach this is kind of more of mastering than mixing. What I do is I take the main show, the voice stuff, and I mix it so that it's minus 15, which sounds a little quiet. But there's a reason for that, is that audio processors, plugins are designed to work optimally between minus 18 and minus 12. Minus 15, good place to be. So I set that at minus 15, and then I mix everything else, the intro, outro, to that. And on this, on this over here, what I do is I put in a limiter. I set the limit to minus 15, and I adjust the threshold so you get 4 to 6
But like,
dBs.
I think it just conceptually a really dope.
Why is it not coming up on the meter? I don't know. Oh, I know why. I gotta turn that back on. There we go.
You will also spend a lot of time saying, why isn't this working the way it's supposed to?
You're upsetting me. All right, turn that back on. And maybe it's control. No. Houston, we've had a problem. All right, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna bail on this and go to the, that's why. Okay, so now.
But like, I think it just conceptually
And it's still
a
not coming
really
up on the meter.
dope meat pie sounds like
All right,
a great Thanksgiving.
I'll just explain it. So you're putting a limiter on there to minus 15. You want 4 or 5 dBs to just kind of tame the signal. Then that goes into a compressor. And I can show you the settings here. You want the attack at about 25. You want the release 125, 4-to-1 ratio. And adjust the threshold so you're getting another 4 to 6 dBs of gain reduction. That should give you a nice even signal. You mix your music, intro, outro to that. Then we go to the main mix, and you don't want to do this until after everything is done. Then you put a peak limiter on the output, much like your process. Set the ceiling to -1, adjust the threshold so you're getting a good signal. And then once you're happy with that, you go to render, and in here there's first of all, you can do a dry run, which will give you your LUFS numbers. There's all kinds of different numbers based on your platform. You can just Google it. You will find out what numbers you need to reach. So over here, you can go into normalize to, say, minus 14 LUFS, and that will turn on the limiter. And when this gets done, it should say LUFS I minus 14 or whatever number you put in. And I've been using that method for, I can tell you, since 2009.
You love dates, huh?
I have, yes, I do. I have lovely numbers. Yeah, this is advice I got from a guy named Bruce Williams. He was an audio engineer in Australia, did podcasting for quite a while. He's since moved on from audio engineering. But he did this blog post about field recordings at conventions. And it's all great about doing all that. But then the second part is all of this that I just explained, how to set all this stuff up. And when I read that, I said, I've hit the mother lode. This is how he does this. So, what else do I have? If you go to YouTube, digital media track buses, search for that. I did an hour-and-a-half long workshop a couple of years ago. All of this stuff explained in excruciating detail, real-world example, and all of that stuff. So, what else have I got? Skype calls, like what you did. Technique that I use, and I use hardware, so you have to figure it out. I don't know what you're using. I can't really speak to anything. But if you take your microphone and pan that hard left, and you take your computer sound and pan it hard right, and then you record that, you will get what's called dual mono. So your microphone will be on one side, and your caller will be on the other side. Then you can explode that out, and you have two separate tracks. So if your caller is too loud, too quiet, whatever, you can mix it back together. Gives you a lot more flexibility. Mic technique is another good thing. I've always done it this way, where I talk across the mic, not into the mic. That way you don't get the breath noises that you hate so much.
I hate breathing.
So, I think that's about all I got.
Yeah, and we will have some time for questions
Yes.
at the end. So if you have them, write them down, keep them in your brain, and
I'll be here afterwards if you want to come and talk. Come and talk. So,
perfect. Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, need the mouse.
Will you pass this around
Oh,
back too?
you need the mouse.
I do not.
Okay.
I'll regret that, but I do not.
All right. Yeah.
I didn't realize how dependent I was on a mouse. But yeah, the cool thing about Hugh's program is that you can see it does all the same things that Audition does. They're called something different, so you might just have to, a lot of times if I don't know how to do something, I'll just Google it. How do you do this in Audition? Works pretty great.
Let's see. All right, so I'll be one half of your video discussion. I primarily edit in Adobe Premiere Pro. Adobe Audition is part of the same suite. If you're on the Adobe Cloud subscription service, I think it's like $11 a month or something for one piece of software, $50 a month for the whole suite. It's really nice. So when I do video and I want to polish the audio, I will export that to Audition and do exactly what she was talking about. It's really super convenient. But I will add the disclaimer that Premiere is a source of much joy and misery. All the video editors are pretty much the same, right? So this is, I think this is Final Cut. So you can see at the bottom, a timeline where all the clips lined up in a temporal sequence that when you hit play, it'll play like the movie. And you'll see the preview window where the video footage is playing what's on the timeline, and then you've got a pool of clips. And for the most part, all the softwares are kind of the same. This is Vegas Pro. You have a pool of clips, some effects, you have the timeline at the bottom. This is iMovie, which I think is free, same basic format. And you can see I'm in Premiere Pro right now, and it's pretty much the standard. DaVinci Resolve is a little different. It's a node-based editing, and it takes a little bit to get the hang of that, but the rewards are very great if you want to go down that road. But I'm a Premiere guy. Most of the softwares have the same kind of import strategy. All the keyboard shortcuts will be different, but pulling clips in is as simple as a keyboard shortcut, or you can click and drag into your clip pool. You can organize the clip pools by folders. So organization is the name of the game. All these softwares are built to help you organize to edit. So they've all got really large pluses, very small minuses. Every one of them, even iMovie, can do the trick. The rest of this is technical, but it's all creative, right? So depending on what you're doing, your clip organization is key. If you're filming an interview, when you're switching from camera A, person A, to camera B, person B, it's a matter of discretion. And so the art of editing is a lot of discretion, experience of what you've seen from other people, experience of doing bears a lot of weight. In clip organization, like when you're putting clips on a timeline, I went to Antarctica about 4 years ago. I'm using Antarctic footage of penguins that I captured to help make some points here. Clip organization, when to cut, it's all really a big deal. So like this clip here with this penguin walking across the top of the screen here. This is the raw piece of footage, right? So you see this guy hanging out, and then he ducks behind the rock here, and then he walks past, right? There's a couple of moments where I don't see the penguin. It just looks like I'm looking at a couple of rocks, right? An experienced editor, if you're worried about time, you can cut very, I don't know how to describe it, covertly, trick your audience into shortening the amount of time spent with the penguin, so it looks like he just ducks and pops right back up. Most of this game is like tiny tricks like that. It's all very crude. I guess on the surface, like you put two clips together at the end, and maybe the trick works, maybe it doesn't. Or what if I slice a chunk out and speed that bit up in the middle? And I don't know how to describe it. If I edit for days on end, I have a hard time forming sentences afterward. Because you get into a mode, and it's like, well, maybe moving this block will work here, moving that block will work here, and there are words, there are theories for a lot of this stuff, like the L cut and stuff like that, but it's kind of a wordless enterprise. These editors all have a bunch of different effects, both built into the software and stuff that you can buy and plug in. And there's a lot of plug-in things that are really fun. But mostly comes down to clip selection and trying to create a moment. So if you're doing something narrative-wise, I have 1, 2, 3 pieces of footage here of a Zodiac ride, for example, right?
I'm with the top.
We'll put their name. Not really. And you see how it doesn't play like you would like a movie, right? I got one clip butted against another one, and it just a jarring cut, right? Here's where the beauty of B-roll comes from. I've got 2 pieces of B-roll here that I can use to hide those cuts. And you see how I'm manipulating the timeline here, right? So if we do something like this. Well, actually, I'm going to do that right there.
I'm with
So
the
that when
top.
it plays, we'll put their name. It kind of all, except for the sound, it kind of all feels like the same moment, like we're on the same boat ride. And most of this game is just putting a clip somewhere to see if you can create a moment, create an emotional feel. Yeah, that one worked really well. Right? So we're on the boat, and then just cut back to the boat. And it doesn't. You can't tell that it's 2 different clips, right? It looks like you looked over there for a second, then looked back, and you're trying to trick your audience into feeling a thing, and there's a lot of tricks to worry about. Premiere, Vegas Pro, I'm sure DaVinci too. There's a lot of really cool stuff built into the program, fading in and out. I just right-click to do a little quick fade in. You can fade the sound up, you can fade the sound down. With addition, a lot of the same audio tricks are built into Premiere. so that you can do some of the same kind of leveling and compression and stuff over here. It's not as strong or as sophisticated in Audition or an audio dedicated program, and I imagine it's the same way with DaVinci. Let's see. Keyframes is a really big thing. There's a couple of tricks of the trade as far as, let's see. This is a clip where I have it fading in to a boat. This is the HV Ortelius. And you can blend clips together. I will do another trick with the boat here. You can also do this thing called, there's keyframes. You can keyframe everything, right? Any kind of effect can probably be operated on a keyframe, and it's kind of like a sliding scale. So if you see my effects window in the bottom left, I have scale. I click it, and it generates a keyframe that's at the beginning of that clip on the timeline. And you see this clip isn't going anywhere. It's just the ship sitting there. I go to the end of the frame, end of the clip. Oh, hold on. And I add a second keyframe, and I change the scale. Let's say 130, right? And this is an absurd zoom, but like it's an artificial zoom. You want to use these sparingly, but it depends on what you're doing. If you need to push in on a story or pull out on a story. Any effect can be generally keyframed within Premiere, and I very much think that most of the other softwares do the same thing. Soundscape is 51% of the picture. It doesn't matter what you're putting up there. If the sound isn't congruent and blended together and well balanced and well leveled, your movie's gonna suck. That's just the end all be all of it. And the sound choices you make are also highly dependent on editorial stuff. This is one of those plugins that I bought afterward, a little holographic plugin for a title thing, and you just buy it and plug it in, and you can type into it and stuff. And here I added some lonely winds. Here is the end I want to suggest here is that the sound design is 51% of the picture. You can do anything you want with sound. So I've got like a kind of adventure music going on here with this lost penguin. I love the sound. Sounds like you're about to go on an adventure, you're going on a voyage. When you meet this penguin, you're like, maybe he's happy, maybe he's gonna go play somewhere, go for a swim. Okay? Here I've used my trick where I've hidden him crossing past the rock. It's dumb. It's the little things, right? So he's looking for an adventure, but illustrating how important sound is to picture. Like I said, 51%. Slight music change, add some lonely wind sound, and suddenly this penguin's looking for its mother.
No, go back to the other one.
I know.
You got a little penguin?
There he is.
Same clips. I just took out 1 or 2 extra shots, and then
No.
my point is well made.
Yes.
Anyway, there's so much technical, but like the basic premise is sound and the effects and where you put the clips and when do you decide to cut.
Awesome.
Jeff?
Okay. I'm going to jump a little bit to streaming. Okay. So streaming is very different because you sort of have to. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do one thing real quick, which is I'm going to make a plug for DaVinci Resolve. So DaVinci Resolve is free software, at least the what they call the basic version. But the basic version has everything that you need. It is a standard video editor. All of the effects are what they call node-based effects, which is just a different way of dealing with the things that happen in After Effects, right? So in the Adobe world, you've got Premiere, you've got After Effects, and you've got Audition, right? Those are your 3 main things. One does audio, one does effects, one does editing. And you have to sort of jump between all these programs and learn fairly different ways of doing things in order to make them all work together. It's a process, and I've been doing it since 19. So I have switched my new projects into DaVinci because it's all of that built into one package, and it is it's cheap, it's free, and even if you pay for the pro package, it's like $300, and that's it. It's not, $30 a month or $40 a month or whatever. It's just one price. Anyway, it's beautiful, and it is extremely powerful, and at least for professional color grading, it is the industry standard. They've sort of added on all of this other stuff into it. And one other minor thing that I'll mention is Blender also has a video editor built into it. Blender is absolutely free software and always will be, and it does some amazing things. So check them out. Streaming. Okay, so the one problem with streaming is that you have to do everything that they just said here before you do your shooting, okay? And it has to happen live. So the first recommendation or first thought is know why you're doing a live stream, okay? All of this, you've got the technology to do it, but are you a person who is capable of looking into a camera and having an intelligent conversation with an inanimate object? Because that's exactly what's happening, right? If you can sit in the bathroom and look at the roll of toilet paper in front of you and have a conversation with it, you're probably going to do pretty well at a live stream. Right? If the toilet paper says that you're a good speaker, right, your audience will too. So you're talking to an inanimate object. It's difficult for many people. So know that you can do it. Practice in front of a camera. Show it to other people and ask, "Do I feel natural?" Because if you don't feel natural to your friends as you're talking, you will not feel natural to other people who will pick up on those cues. Beyond that, you've decided you're going to do this, okay? You've made the commitment, you're going to do some live streaming. You can do it with your phone. That's perfectly fine. It's a way to start off your channel, sort of get out your thoughts and start generating an audience. But at some point, you're going to realize that different places you go offer different quality or causes a change to the quality in what you're recording, right? So if you don't have a physical place to go to that is consistent and repeatable, that gives you consistent and repeatable results, then everything that you produce is going to be sort of random. And people are going to pick up on that, and they're just going to say, well, this is amateur, right? Okay, so you've decided now I'm going to do live streaming. I'm going to do it from a place that I have treated. So what do you wind up needing? First is audio, right? You must deal with your audio first. A microphone, it doesn't have to be a great microphone. It just has to be close to you. Because the closer you are, you get something called the proximity effect, and it makes your voice lower and more present. And it also kills any of that, or I should say it overcomes any of the background noise that may be in your room at the time. So your proximity to the microphone matters a great deal in creating good quality audio, because if you have to lower the volume in order to handle your voice, then you're also lowering the volume of the background noise, okay? So while it would be great for your room to have no noise whatsoever, the closer you are to your microphone, you can overcome it very quickly. Once you have a microphone, if you're doing a podcast, that's you're halfway there, right? You have to take the audio into either a device like your phone or a computer, and then you have to pump it through podcasting software of whatever nature. This is a perfectly fine podcasting solution, right? I've got a microphone, it's going into a mixer, going into somebody's computer, and it's getting streamed out on Twitch or something? Or are we being streamed here? No, we're just being recorded into the camera, right? So we've done the whole process right here. This is podcasting. Assume that camera is being sent to YouTube. Great, but we want video, okay? So now you need a camera going into a computer so that it can basically capture your image and send it off onto the internet. And the one piece of software that virtually everybody uses, if you've ever seen a YouTube channel where they have a studio, they've sort of built in a studio, they're using Open Broadcaster software, OBS. Anybody not heard of OBS? Excellent. Okay, this is free open source software, and it's what you call a video switcher, a software-based video switcher. And basically it will take in any sort of video inputs that you give to it, and offer you the ability to switch between them, audio, video, images, any kind of content that you can get into your computer. It can switch it, and you can hit a button and switch to, like a talking head video with a newscaster style video, all built into a computer program that will then send that stream to YouTube or Twitch or whatever in their preferred format and resolution. Let's see, if you do that, if you set up a room to do that, please pay attention to audio problems that are happening in the room. Echo is the biggest problem, right? So if you're in a room with untreated walls, you don't have anything on the walls, you're going to wind up probably sitting in the middle of that room. And when you're sitting in the middle of any room, you get your voice goes out, hits both walls, comes back into the microphone slightly after your original voice went into the microphone, and it comes across as a tinny echo. You don't want that. Please put something, pictures, a blanket, whatever, anything on your walls to the sides to knock that down. Also, OBS will have noise reduction software. If you have a regular computer with even a reasonable gaming card, RTX 2000 or above, right? RTX 2060, NVIDIA RTX 2060 or above. OBS can use something called RTX Voice. And RTX Voice is an AI-based noise reduction plugin, and it's now built into OBS. It will remove jackhammers outside your window. It'll remove leaf blowers next to literally next to your microphone. You will still be relatively intelligible. It's absolutely incredible. It does a lot of the work that we do in post on audio all the time, and it does it right there in the microphone. Is it perfect? No. Is it amazing? Yes. So use it. Also, OBS will allow you to use what are called VSTs. These are audio plugins. It has some built-in stuff. For example, like a limiter and a compressor. So everything that they're doing right here, you can set that up in OBS so that your audio peaks wind up where they need to be live. Practice. Set up your audio, do some streams, send them to YouTube, see if they sound like your favorite channel, right? Because if they don't, then you need to fiddle with your stuff. Every streaming service will have some amount of every streaming service will knock your audio down to whatever level they want it at. The only problem that you wind up having is either you were way, way too above that and it'll hurt the audio quality, or you were too low. Never be too low. Be just a little bit above, and then YouTube will knock it down to the right level. If you're too low, then you're going to force people who watch your channel to turn up their volume just to watch your channel, which is a pain. They don't like that. So let's see. Okay, if you're doing video, you need a camera. We do whole panels on that, so I'm just going to say that your phone's a fine camera, but it's always not, like I said, when you do this on the regular, if you want to go into the room and just be ready to shoot all the time, you really need a camera in your room. You can use a high quality webcam, but I really do like using mirrorless cameras for this purpose. The Sony ZV-1 is a good low end camera, produces a fantastic image. You plug it into your computer, it will go over USB. Higher quality stuff will require a capture card. Don't worry about that. Go USB to begin with. You'll find all the rest of this out later. Lighting, also important. Have at least 2 lights in your room that are pointed at your face, one a little brighter than the other, 45-degree angle at your face. That's just to start with, right? If you look good in that view, that's great. Ring lights are fantastic. Sunlight coming through a window, any kind of softness that you can add to your face is fantastic. So all you really need are a couple of small lights just to even out the shadows. What you don't want to see are a whole bunch of crags on your face or what this does to us,
Yes.
right? This is awful.
Terrible.
If you wind up with these horrible, horrible shadows under your eyes, that means you've done something horribly wrong. You need to get some light that's toward your face, right? People are looking at your face, and they want to know that you are a three-dimensional being, but they don't want to know how three-dimensional you really are, right? So just keep playing with it until it looks gentle. The larger the light source you can get, the better. You can also use diffusion in front of a very bright light. So like drapes that are, sheers, can be diffusion if you have a bright light that you can put behind them. So you can do it all very cheaply. Let's see, was there anything that I missed?
Pop, you've got a lot of like equipment and streaming videos on your YouTube, right?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I have not produced a video in over a year because I've been busy on other projects. But yes, the idea of my channel, Photon Army, is to demonstrate products for the purpose of streaming videos. Yes, or for many types of things.
What was that again?
Photon Army.
Cool, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, I want to save some time for Q&A, so I'm going to go through these really quick. But whether you are editing video or just audio for a podcast, I cannot stress this enough, save constantly.
Oh my God, yes.
These are complex programs, and at some point they will crash, and you will be very thankful that you saved constantly. Try and make it a muscle memory habit.
Yeah.
Every 3 or 4 things you do, you just hit Control S. Also, back up your footage. Back up your footage in a way that makes sense. A year from now, you might need your shot of a penguin for a panel you're doing at DragonCon. If you don't have it like filed away and labeled and backed up, you're not going to be able to get it because cards all look the same, and when you're in the moment shooting, you don't necessarily have time to label them. So I would say do that. If you shoot an interview, one thing that really helps is transcribing it. And in the old days, you used to have to do that by actually writing or typing it out, but now there are artificial intelligence transcription services that work like 90% well and can do everything you need for transcription. There's Premiere actually in the most recent release, I think, have one embedded that works pretty well. There's a plugin for Premiere from a company called Digital Anarchy that I like. For longer interviews, I use a service called Trint. So I would say do that. If you're getting started editing video, watch things you like and reverse engineer them. You will be able to see like what the cuts are doing and how they're invisible, and B, you will be able to ruin any piece of media you like by only seeing that side of it now. It'll give you like a second sight. It's great. For music that you're using, especially if you're putting these things on YouTube, you're going to want to use like popular tracks, like, Beyonce, and that will be taken down immediately, and you don't necessarily have the rights to use it. Your options are either to find a royalty-free music site. There's one called, royaltyfreemusic.com. If you just Google royalty-free music, a bunch of sites will come up. You can usually get tracks for like $30 to $50. If you are not making money off it and you really want to use that Beyonce song, like lower the pitch by like 1%, and YouTube's algorithm won't pick it up. When you first get started editing, you are gonna want to go crazy with effects and dissolves, and I urge you to hold back that. That is a garnish. It will take people watching your material immediately out of it. They're only gonna focus on the star wipes and the page wipes and all of that, no matter how much fun it is in the moment. Kyle had mentioned that when he's editing, he can barely talk. When you get into that flow and you're really close to a project, find someone who knows nothing about it and have them watch it, because they will be able to pick out what like makes sense in your head but doesn't make sense to anyone else. Because when you get in that zone, there are things you're going to miss by being too close to it. Graphics in say Adobe After Effects are kind of a 200 level course, but I will say you can download templates and reverse engineer those, and that is the best way to learn that stuff, along with finding a YouTube video for anything you want to do. Once you've got the basics of editing down, if you're like, can I do this? Just type it into the search engine that is YouTube, and you will find out immediately how to do it. Things online are moving more and more towards captioning, especially from a disability services ADA standpoint. And again, Premiere has a great captioning plugin. So keep an eye on that. Like, A, because a lot of people don't watch videos online with sound on social media, and B, it is sort of a way to help people who possibly can't hear. And when you're exporting, play around with different type of files because you're going to want to find the best medium between like high-end quality video and what will stream quickly. So play around a bit there and see what works. Premiere has settings for specific things. You can like scroll down and export an MP4 like specifically for YouTube, for instance. And I had more, but it's getting on there, and I really want to hear what you all have to say.
Yeah, awesome. We've got a mic in the middle. We can stop. Let's stop. Competitive background sound. Come on up to the microphone if you have questions. We will get to as many as we can in the next couple minutes, and then we'll be here, and we'll drop our social links as well, so that if you want to follow up, you can.
Hello.
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 I constantly find it daunting, especially for my podcast where I'm editing and it is like a couple of hours of footage I try to break down, or sound that I try to break down, and then placing music behind it, and like it's just what is 1 hour turns into 3 hours of editing. Do you have any tips and tricks to kind of like shorten the process?
My biggest thing is that nobody is listening as hard as you are. So all of those things that you might be tempted to take out, like, oh, I moved my hair behind my ear and I can kind of hear that swish. If that's the kind of thing that you're really like detailed in editing out, that's going to take a lot of time, and your audience isn't going to pick it up if it's in there. So make sure you're taking care of yourself. You're doing what you can do. Music always needs to be lower volume than you think it does, because if it impacts being able to understand your voice, then you've lost your audience. But really, it's just knowing that you're going to get it good and not perfect. And perfect isn't achievable in a podcast. So don't hold yourself to that perfect standard. Let yourself kind of take the time you need and not overthink it.
Okay.
Podcasts are naturalistic conversations too, and I know the first time I edited a podcast, I took out every pause, I took out every I took out every mild stumble, and when I listened back, it sounded like we had all done a mountain of cocaine. So don't be afraid to let it breathe, and don't be afraid to have the occasional in there.
Mm-hmm.
Are you having problems with intelligibility of your voice over the music, or just?
Yeah, with the music, sometimes I'm like, I listen on headphones and it's like, it's good, and I listen on a speaker and I'm like, oh, it's too loud or too low, and I don't know what a good ratio is either.
Well, that one's right. Yeah, the proper loudness is well, taste, and but you're doing it right by listening to it on different formats to see where it winds up at, because your stereo is EQ'd very differently from other things, right? And it also responds to different frequencies. Look up a video. Actually, I get to mention it. Yay! Look up a video on notch filtering for voice, notch voice, right? So it's called notch EQ for music and voice, or something like that. You look that up on YouTube. There's dozens and dozens. But what they basically are telling you to do is using an EQ on your music so that it removes certain frequencies that compete with your voice. And that way you can keep your music up a little louder while not having your voice negatively impacted.
There's also a thing called ducking, right?
Right.
Ducking,
Exactly.
yep.
You right where you drop it down right when you speak. But at so the two of them together work hand in glove in major motion pictures, where there's just tons of sound going on, and yet for some reason you can very clearly hear what everyone is saying to each other. That's what's happening, is they are removing frequencies that compete with those voices, and they're also dropping down the overall level of it during those moments that they're talking. So notch EQ and ducking.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My question's more going into the editing process, more specifically with YouTube, with transitions. Granted, you don't want to overload them, I understand that, but if you're doing more of an educational to where you're going into different projects, having a transition to differentiate from project 1 to project 2 to project 3, would you say that would be just enough at that point in time?
It can be, and then YouTube has the ability to create sections by pointing out the time code of when it actually happens down in the description, and it will actually create sections that people can jump to. But yeah, I mean, you know,
I mean, I think it depends on like your audience, right? So if you're aiming at like 5 and 6 year olds, for example, they might enjoy a little more. But for the video essays on Trexpertise, I like dividing it up into chapters. And so at the beginning of every chapter, I'll have like a graphical like welcome to this section, or not. I don't know. It's a taste thing. You know? It just really depends on what feels too much and what doesn't. I don't know.
Transitions by their nature draw attention to themselves, and so if you're trying to draw attention to someone to here's a new section, that's a perfect time to use them. Like, these things exist for a reason, so the problem is when they get overused.
Gotcha.
just always do the Star Wars roll. So, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so music producer coming into this type of thing here. Couple things. First of all, you mentioned ducking. Do they also call it sidechaining over in the?
Yes.
Okay, so also you mentioned this with NVIDIA's 2000 series. Unfortunately, with me, I've got a 1080. But because I'm in music, I use FL Studio's Edison for killing the background audio. I was wondering, because I got recommended both. Adobe has that new AI thing that they just pushed like this weekend, and Waves has Clarity. And I'm wondering, have you all used it? Do you recommend it over, or do you just think that default plugins would probably be better for a layman or even maybe professionals?
I'll tell you, what I've been using up until now has been Isotope, and it's been beautiful.
RX.
But I'm sorry?
RX.
RX, yeah.
Yes.
The landscape is just changing so fast. All you can really do is try them out and test them, because I haven't even had a chance to test the Adobe one. The NVIDIA RTX voice sound removal or sound suppression. They even do echo suppression, so I don't know if that's a feature in Adobe's new stuff. All you can really do is test it out and see if it works for your specific situation, because I can tell you there are scenarios where I just can't use RTX voice, and there are scenarios I can't use Isotope.
I think that native to the software, you have enough to get started. If you're exploring those kinds of options to begin with, start with what comes with the software, and then you'll know how awesome the extras are.
Yeah.
Also, one last thing. What is the text effect called on the Lost Penguin thing?
The text effect, that is by a company called Maxon. Used to be called Red Giant. Where's it on? It's the holographic Universe Holomatrix 2 by Maxon, Maxon.
Thank you.
They have a lot of good toys.
Part of their Universe plugin.
All right, thank you.
All right, we've got very rapid fire answers.
I have a partner and at my personal life, and then I have 3 coaches that I work with that I need to do their audio and my audio in the same track, and I'm trying to clean it up, and either I sound like Minnie Mouse or they sound really like Minnie Mouse. Mm-hmm. So one of us is gender bending here. So how would it be better to duplicate the track and then take my voice out and then filter it?
Let's chat. I'm going to do a quick wrap up here, and then let's chat about that, because I think there are a couple ways you can work around it.
Okay.
And for the couple folks who have questions, also, we'll be here. We just are running out of time. So I'm Stephanie Crugnola. You can find me at Crugnola.
I'm Hugh Morrison. Find me at DragonCon next year.
Kyle Sullivan, Screen Door Pictures.
Jeff Ello, we will be doing a guerrilla filmmaking panel at 7, so you can find me there.
Nice.
Kevin Cafferty, gleamingthetube.net, and at 4 p.m., come to the Sci-Fi Classic Shrek Room in the Marriott. We're doing a live table read of a Golden Girls episode.
Love it. Yeah. All right. Thank you all so much for being here. Please remember to donate to Open Hand Atlanta. DragonCon is matching that money. Thank you to Blueberry for being our track sponsor. And if you like this and want more of this, maybe separate audio editing and a video editing and a streaming workshop next year, rate us 5 stars in the app. Tell them you want more. And thank you for being here. If you've got questions or you want to see that QR code to get my PowerPoint, come on up.
Give it up for Stephanie for putting this together.